little search on how jurors are selected. The quick rundown is it's a compilation of voter registration and DMV records, and then they randomly select men, women, different races, different religions. Questions can be asked by both the prosecuting and the defending attorney in a jury trial, and then both of them have the option to excuse people for qualified reasons. So there are reasons you can't disqualify people for, and there are reasons you can. I didn't go into that, but I did go into the system that is used for jury selection. So it's that DMV and that voter registration. So I'm just quietly manifesting when I'm going to get jury duty. I hope I get a sweet case. There's a lot to think about on most cases. What evidence is circumstantial, which there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that is brought into court. And there's what I consider pseudosciences. Pseudosciences, how I'm using it, and I hope this is the definition term, pseudo can mean fake or partial. Pseudo, like partly. For instance, arson. Arson is an interesting one where if you have traces of an accelerant, be it acetone, be it alcohol, be it, I guess hand sanitizer is kind of alcohol, gasolines or crude oil or petroleum products, Vaseline, potassium nitrate with like sugar. Those are known as accelerants, where once it's lit, it accelerates and heats up even more. It exaggerates what energy has been added. Unfortunately, there is too many places that I've known to have contaminants that are natural to the environment, whether you're working outdoors, whether you're working on the farm, lots and lots of places where cross-contamination and spills, whether your chainsaw, is running on oil and gas, and that spills all over your pants and your boots, all kinds of stuff. And then those traces, although we don't see them, and if they're not cleaned up, will test positive as an accelerant was added. But then you look at other cases where, like crispers or potato chips, when that is used as a accelerant, it looks natural because it's potato chips or cigarette butts. It's like, oh yeah, people smoke, and sometimes they want to smoke and put it out in the ashtray, and sometimes that is the initiator for the arson, and it looks natural. It looks like an accident, even though it was by design to look like that. A lot of other things is cotton, where cotton catches on fire with certain oils, linseed oil being, boiled linseed oil being a more heavy culprit, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's the one. It's not something I focused on recently, but so with these arson cases, the evidence is hard to determine what is real. Now, if you have accelerants, you have threats of fire or pyromania or all these additional circumstantial evidence, then that would stack in the favor of guilt, where if it was just a random fire and, the person doesn't smoke, but they're cigarettes, it's like, hey, that's unnormal. We should investigate further. What evidence is there to support, maybe there was a visitor. Maybe their DNA from their lips or lipstick was on the cigarette, but because it was in a home that burned at 12,000 degrees, I'm just throwing out a number. I don't know if that's the accurate home burn rate. but then it can't be tested, and no one really knows what was going on. So you have to take witness testimony, you have to take the word of the experts, how they were trained, what they were trained in, what that actually means, because sometimes people that are trained in an arson investigation, they use language to justify their jobs. And I don't mean any ill will towards these people, but by design, we all do it. Whether consciously or subconsciously, it is in people's best interest to justify their own jobs so they can get paid more and so they can, well, they can, how do I put this gently? So they can milk the clock, so to speak. So you've got to take the evidence, you've got to take how much it is worth, and you have to compile that, and then you have to see what would happenstance be. What is the acceptable range of these instances? Is it possible? Is it beyond a reasonable doubt? Now, a reasonable doubt is vastly different between people. A stay-at-home mom who raises 3 daughters will be vastly different than a military father that has, 4 teenage boys. Like, that is just the difference in gender of the children will be vastly different on how they see the world because of their experience. And not only that, but the father being in the military, although I think he would be more funny because military guys and people who have done time in prison are just funnier. It doesn't go throughout, but that's a good gauge. If you're assuming one is funny, typically they did time or they were in the military. So, to wrap up, if you were on a jury, you should do what I am doing and weigh the options and the acceptable ranges of both guilt and innocence, and determining whether it is beyond a reasonable doubt, and also weighing each piece of evidence, because a lot of cases have been pushed and all it was circumstantial evidence. A lot of times that's all the evidence they have. They present their best case to convict, and that's the result people come to when they make it dance in court, when they can tell a logical story and string out those events in a systematic system or in a systematic chain. Then it is better presented and it is more likely to get a conviction, even though it was all circumstantial evidence, or in some cases it was fruit of the poisonous tree, which means evidence obtained illegally should have tainted the whole case, because if they can't be trusted with this evidence, they shouldn't be trusted with the rest. And I really hope we can minimize that. I hope those numbers can lower and lower. Excuse the noise. I've got this fan going on one of my electronics, and it's rattling. I know that might be annoying. Well, see you next time. I hope I'll be getting this jury summons pretty quickly, but I mean, I'm excited. I am very passionate about this, but we will discuss later.